Hey, how are you? I am Chris Robin, aka at Detroit Beastie, here with Fantasy Six Pack to talk about Monday Night Football, another doubleheader of goodness. The Tennessee Titans head to Miami to battle the Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium. Kickoff there is at 7:30 p.m. And in the second leg of the doubleheader, the Detroit Lions host the Seattle Seahawks. Kickoff there is at 8:15. It's an odd slate to me personally when I look at my final scores, when I look at some betting trends, and then the players that go along with it in terms of who they are and what they can do going against the certain DSTs that they are. It is going to be not a nuts Monday, but I wouldn't have it any other way because it's Monday Night Football. 2 games, DFS. We'll dig into it briefly. Before that, make sure you get to the website at fantasy6pack.net. When you get there, sign up. Actually, look around, see if what makes you comfortable, and if you're happy enough, then join up for the premium membership and all that. And again, Discord is where you're going to want to be. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. The Discord is free, but there are some premium channels, premium options where a guy like a schlub like me is just sharing his lines and his ideas, and even some betting, some parlays. The betting trends I give you for free, you can find those anywhere. But some parlays and even DFS lines will always be there. When we look at this football game, both football games, I should say, Tennessee at Miami and then Seattle at Detroit. 2 games, 1 video. It was successful last time. And plus, I don't have to keep everyone here for 30 to 45 minutes. Don't have to spend, half the day editing and making graphics. And I mean, I love to do that, but it's time to be more efficient in my DFS practices and advice to you. Let's start with the quarterback, shall we? When we look at this, there's 2 games, 4 quarterbacks. Jared Goff, Geno Smith, Tyler Huntley looks to be getting the start for the Miami Dolphins this evening. And then Will Levis, who's turned the ball over 8 times so far, 5 interceptions, 3 fumbles. It's the most. Last I look, it's the most by any quarterback for the Tennessee Titans in the first 3 games of any season. Bummer, but we shall proceed. Jared Goff is playing at home against the Seattle Seahawks, who have dominated the Lions the last, I think, they're 6-0 their last 6 games. Last year was Seattle beat Detroit in the first few games of the season, and then it was the Lions were off and running, but it was still nasty to hold on to that. And again, Seattle Seahawks 3rd overall against opposing quarterbacks. So Jared Goff has not been himself. His touchdown to interception ratio is not what it should be in his book, in his eyes, and we go from there. Geno Smith is going to be active this evening against the Lions, 23rd ranked defense against opposing quarterbacks. He's very much in play. Geno, 24 to 25 completions, around 270 yards, a pair of touchdown passes. You're going to want in on that, and about 15 to 20 rushing yards, but it's going to cost you, seeing how he's 7-6 on FanDuel, 5-9 on DK. Will Levis, as I said, not much to like there, even in a GPP, which is odd for me to say because he's 6-7 on FanDuel. He's a lot expensive on FanDuel for what he can provide, or lack thereof, with the INTs. And are we going to get a cool another screenshot of an interception or a fumble where he's like this, or they're work of art. It's a work of art, right? All football games are. He is on my radar, but not anything I want to tell folks in this video. Tyler Huntley's where I've landed for today's slate. You might say, well, what are you doing? That's nuts. The Tennessee Titans, 11th overall against opposing quarterbacks. But hey, he's 6-4 on FanDuel, 5-5 on DK. We know it's not like he's getting a start for however many franchises this is. It's not like he's in his 40s. He's still a young man in his mid-20s, and the rushing upside is enough to tip the scale, move the needle, however you want to put it. 6-4 on FanDuel, 5-5 on DK, 17 to 18 completions, around 180 yards. I'd love to tell you that Tyler Huntley can get to 200 passing yards, and he could, given the weapons, or not really the weapons that are there for him, but it's going to be a lot of handoff and dump passes and things along those lines. So 180 yards passing, a touchdown pass, and then 35 to 40 yards on the ground, 6 to 7 carries. So that's what we're after. If Huntley can find the end zone on the ground, you're looking at 2 overall touchdowns for him, and then we're rolling given his price tag across all platforms. When we look at the running backs here, the only pair of running backs that you could say, from a fan perspective or just from a sports betting and DFS perspective, would have to be the boys in Detroit, right? Jamar Gibbs, David Montgomery, not so fast. The Seahawks 9th overall against opposing running backs, and of the two, I can't, even take my Lions fandom aside. Of the two, you really can't pick because we see David Montgomery is getting a lot of the carries, but when you look at Jamar Gibbs, Gibbs has scored 13 touchdowns the last 14 games overall. That's a pretty solid run of finding the end zone. But as it stands now, Jamar Gibbs averaging 94.3 yards and 17 touches a game. So you're looking at, well, he's basically scoring 1 touchdown a game. He's averaging just shy of 100 all-purpose yards, and he's getting 17 touches a game. It's like that work is locked into what he can do. But right now, the Seattle Seahawks they're giving up 4.3 yards a carry to running backs, and that's solid. And then even on the other end of it, the Detroit Lions have been outstanding. They're first overall against opposing running backs. So, okay, we'll fade the Lions running backs in favor of, let's say, Kenneth Walker III or Zach Charbonnet, something like that. But the Lions are only allowing 3.6 yards a carry to running backs. And again, I have Kenneth Walker, 12 to 13 carries if he plays. All signs point to that. So there's not, if Kenneth Walker was 100% healthy, strong, like King Henry was last night, you could say, well, the workload will win out. There, let's say 3.6 yards a carry isn't fantastic, but it's not awful either. And if you get 20 carries in a game, 20 times 3.6 would get you around just shy of 70 total yards, something like that. So I can deal with 70 yards, and more than likely, if that's what Kenny Walker III's getting, he'll find the end zone and we'll move on. But given, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, of both games, if we're gonna, I'm playing the main 2-game slate. It's like, you look at the DVP and it's bad news for the likes of Kenneth Walker and even the Lions per se. But then you hop over to the Tennessee Titans running backs, Tony Pollard, Taj Spears, and the Miami Dolphins are 27th overall against opposing running backs. But Pollard and Spears, aren't world beaters themselves. So there's a weird conundrum here that I haven't been able to put my finger on as of yet, and I figured, you know what, let's go live or record the video and I'll work it out on the fly. And personally, I don't think I've done a good job so far explaining myself to you, but maybe we'll get there. We got maybe 4 or 5 minutes left, and I gotta trust my brain and my mouth that I'll get you there. I'll get you where you need to go, where we need to go. So to me, Devin Achane is very much in play as well. He's the Miami Dolphins lead back as of now. The young kid, the speedster, could find the corner in the blink of an eye. Looking at 13, 14 carries, around 70 yards on the ground, and then around 3 to 4 receptions for 30 yards. But Tennessee, they're only allowing 4.5 yards a carry. So DVP's not DVPing today, as you can tell. Miami 27th overall against opposing running backs, but they're really good. The Miami Dolphins are really good at defending opposing running backs, if that makes any sense. I have a few players highlighted. I would prefer to run with David Montgomery and Devin Achane here. Let's just get rid of the guesswork here. If it's a main slate lineup, there's no reason for MVP or captain spots. If you want to go that route, have at it. But to me, why fool around? Let's lock in 2 of the higher end running backs tonight, David Montgomery, Devin Achane. You want to throw Gibbs in the flex spot, I would not fault you, seeing how I have the Lions to score around 27 to 28 points. When we look at the wide receivers, more of the same when we're looking at DVP, opposing team, and what the actual receiver is doing here. DK Metcalf. I love the trio of the Seattle Seahawks wide receivers just based on the fact that Detroit is 31st overall against opposing wide receivers, and they have a slew of injuries in the secondary. Most importantly, Brian Branch, the one who wears the green sticker, he is the defensive captain. He is. There hasn't been word that he's not going to play, but he's an illness, if I'm not mistaken. Alex Anzalone has been out. He didn't play last week, and here we are again. I don't want to use the word ravaged by injuries, because finally Brad and Dan here in Detroit have added some good depth where it's not a falls off a cliff once your starting stud or studs are out. But to me, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and even Tyler Lockett are in play. Lions 31st overall against opposing wide receivers. And something that stood out to me with Jackson Smith-Njigba, right? The rub on him in seasonal formats has always been, well, he in the pecking order, he's probably third or fourth. You go Ken Walker, DK Metcalf, 1A, 1B, and then Lockett's still doing his thing. The guy can get downfield and get open with the best of them. But last week, and I wrote it really, I don't know why I write it real so tiny, where I put myself behind the barrel when it comes to videos, but I can do this. My eyes are good, and mainly for a picture for you. But when we look at Jackson Smith-Njigba, most snaps and routes ran last week, 16 targets in week 2 as well. And I am comfortable in saying that Jackson Smith-Njigba is now the wide receiver 2 in Seattle. And fair enough, right? DK Metcalf's a specimen, a stud all in his own, but Njigba 6'2" on FanDuel, 5'5" on DK, 6'7" targets, 4-5 receptions, 60 yards. And I told you I have the Lions to score around 27 to 28 points. I have Seattle to hang at around 3 touchdowns as well. 1 on the ground, 2 in the air. I have Geno Smith with 2 touchdown passes. So why can't we give one to, as I explained last time out, I look at the final score and then I dole out the touchdowns like I'm some sort of, DFS, the all-being DFS guy, but I'm not at all. I'm just another guy here. Jackson Smith-Njigba with a touchdown reception. And how about DK Metcalf, too, on 5 to 6 receptions, 75 to 80 yards. Metcalf averaging 15.4 yards a reception. As we go down the list, Tyler Lockett, again, on my list, we can roster both Jackson Smith-Njigba and Tyler Lockett. Won't work with DK Metcalf given the salary constraints, but hey, as I said so far, Tyler Huntley, D-Mop, Devin Achane, and then Jackson Smith-Njigba, Tyler Lockett, and I'm going to lock in and lock down Amon-Ra St. Brown this week. And FanDuel, Amon-Ra 8-8 on FanDuel, 8-2 on DK, and get this, the Seattle Seahawks are first overall against opposing wide receivers, but Amon-Ra he's not in his own class. He's a top 5 wide receiver. At least he was, heading into the season here. But Amon-Ra is in a class of its own in terms of getting open and getting those heavy hard yardage, fourth and 3, 3rd and 8. Jared Goff looks his way because yards after catch, he'll do whatever it takes, to get that extra yard to move the chains. 9 to 10 targets, 7 to 8 receptions, 75 to 80 yards. Seattle only allowing 4.8 yards a target. So again, I've said some of these facts, and maybe I'll put it all together at the end of the video for you. But again, Seattle's only allowing 4.8 yards a target. Tennessee's only allowing 4.5 yards a carry to running backs. It just goes back and forth, in terms of DVP, and then the opposing player that's going against these good, fantastic DSTs that are allowing X and Y and Z are average at best, and then you have to deal with the DVP. And these dudes are grown men. They're football players. I take back what I said about being average. I'm average, just a guy here at home giving you a video. So I take that back. I don't want any flack for that. And then lastly, Jameson Williams, we can toss him in as well. Again, Seattle's first overall, but he's a burner. Seattle is only, how can I put this? Around 19 yards, or actually Jameson Williams is averaging 19 yards a reception. But the Seattle fewest yards per game to wide receivers. So yet another odd stat that I stumbled through. Jameson averaging 19 yards a reception, but Seattle's allowing the fewest yards a game per receiver. Jameson 3-4 receptions, 55 to 60 yards, and we'll move on from there. The tight ends are very uninspiring, and you have Sam Laporta, who's 6'5" on FanDuel, and then the next closest tight end is Noah Fant at 5'1". But again, Seattle's very stingy against tight ends as well, yet their DVP's 24th. It's a green matchup. but Seattle's stingy to DSTs in terms of catches and yardage allowed. Jonnu Smith is on the map. He's highlighted. I would put him in. Not really a salary relief in a way, and we're not expecting much, and we're not going to get much from Jonnu, but it makes sense. Not going to get a goose egg, let's say, and he's not going to cost you a ton of dough. So it's kind of just holding down the tight end spot because you want to punt it, have at it. Jonnu is probably my fave punt play at tight end this week. 3-4 targets, 2 to 3 receptions, 20 to 25 yards. And when you look at the Tennessee DST, they're first against tight ends. Again, it's like, Tennessee hasn't won many games. It's only been 2 games, and their quarterback, Will Levis, is turning the ball over at a historical rate, but they're really good against tight ends. And they've only given up, or I should say, they've only allowed 6 receptions for 40 yards to tight ends their first 2 games of the year. And when we look at the DSTs here, the Dolphins, the Titans, the Lions, the Seahawks, of them all, I would prefer taking a DST in the Miami-Tennessee game just because I think it's going to be under. I have that as a 17-13 final score, so give me the under 37.5 points. So more than likely, we're going to go with the Miami DST because of Will Levis getting sacked, turning the ball over. Any DST facing the Tennessee Titans are a cash cow, and that's what I would roll with. I have Miami, excuse me. You could say I have Tennessee to be sacked 3 or 4 times, to throw an interception, to fumble the ball, but it's better to show love where you can. And the Dolphins are going to sack Tennessee 3 to 4 times. They're going to intercept a pass, a fumble recovery, and they're only going to allow 13 to 14 points. So give me that one. Recent betting trends, and then I'll give you an example of a line. So grab a pen here in the next few minutes if you don't have one already. The Seattle Seahawks 5-0 against the spread, their last 5 games against Detroit. And again, Seattle's dominated the Lions over the last few seasons. 6-0, if I remember correctly. The under has come in 7 of Seattle's last 9 games on the road. The Lions are 8-2 against the spread their last 10 games. And then when we look at the Tennessee Miami game, the reason I love the under is because of the DSTs and the players and the quarterbacks. But get these recent betting trends. These things don't lie, right? Tennessee 1-4 against the spread their last 5. Miami 0-6 against the spread their last 6 games, and these are the 2 that are really speaking to me. The under has come in the last 5 Miami football games. They're 5 for 5 have been the under for the Dolphins, and the under has hit in 11 of Tennessee's last 15 games on the road against Miami. Tennessee's on the road in Miami, so can we chalk that up as another under? I think so. So when this is all said and done, give me the Tennessee Titans to win in Miami 17-13. Going to be not a blah game, and there's going to be yardage on the ground for Devin Achane, hopefully, fingers crossed, since I'm plugging him in. But Tennessee wins 17-13, and then the second game of the doubleheader, Seattle's in Detroit. Give me the Detroit Lions to win. Get off the schneid. 1-7 their last 8 something, or 1-6 their last 7 games. That's what we'll lock it in as. But the Lions win 27-23 in an exciting back and forth game. Hopefully a little bit more action in the second half than we're used to. In here, grab a pen. I have 2 surprises here. I'll give you a special line, and then we're going to hear from Keith, who was nice enough to kind of come over and record something, and we're going to plug it into the video. So we're doing Tyler Huntley at quarterback, David Montgomery and Devin Achane at our running back spots. Wide receivers, we're going to do Jamison Williams, JSN, Tyler Lockett, and then you can plug in a Monra in a wide receiver spot or in a flex if you feel so inclined. Jonnu Smith is going to be our tight end, and the Miami Dolphins are going to be our DST. Tennessee wins 17-13 in an under kind of game, and the Seattle Seahawks will fall in Detroit tonight, 27-23. Be good, be safe, and let's go Lions. Bye-bye.